Youth pastor, I have a question for you. Are you tired of eating pizza yet? I don't know about you, but when I was involved with working with young people, I discovered that I felt like I was feeding them and entertaining them all the time, and often walking away wondering, was any spiritual fruit coming from this ministry? You know, I think one of the greatest ministries that's lacking with young people today is a knowledge of what Jesus had to say. And I think that some of the criticism that people give to us, the buzz that floats around our churches about what are they doing with our young people, will evaporate if we get them involved directly with the very words of Christ. I have written a little book here called The Jesus Passages, and it takes the user through every episode in the life of Christ chronologically. And if your kids were to go through the Jesus Passages, they would have covered everything that we have recorded that Jesus had to say. I would like to suggest a variety of ways that you can use this in your youth ministry. If I were a youth pastor, I would take a year and make it an emphasis for that year, the words of Christ. I would try to get a copy of the Jesus Passages in the hands of every young person so that it becomes a very companion to their Bible. So when you say, bring your Bibles, bring your copy of the Jesus Passages. I would assign maybe 1, 2, 3, or 4 passages a week for them to go through that you can use in discussions when you come together for youth ministry. And then when you gather for your Sunday school class or for your youth meeting or whatever the event is, have a weekly time of sharing where the kids can share how they responded, what they wrote down about the certain passages, or even select a couple kids specifically to come prepared to share what God taught them. I would use it in my small groups as well. Because, you know, the small groups can go through this chronologically, or they can go to the back of the book and look at the topics. And you can assign different passages that they use individually and then come together and use them in sharing as a small group. And I think small groups will really like the Jesus Passages because it is made so user-friendly that even young people can use it to guide the group that they're going through. Fourthly, then I would use it when you have retreats or special events with the kids. Use the Jesus Passages as a form of teaching. And as you're teaching, they'll be able to look in their journal and see what they wrote down. And they'll be able to write information that you have. And you'll be able to put together some of the teaching in a formal way that they have discovered by themselves in the Jesus Passages. And then possibly you're looking for a tool that will help with personal discipleship. How do you take a new kid in the group and help him grow to know what God expects of him? Well, you know, the Jesus Passages contain most of the topics or the issues that they are facing. And either directly or through principles, they will gain the wisdom that they need. You know, you're probably sitting there wondering, well, why should I do this? Why would I ever devote a year to the words of Jesus or to the Jesus Passages? Well, I would like to give you several suggestions. Number one is I think it'll produce basic information that they need to live the life of Christ. We tell the kids, buy a bracelet that says, you know, what would Jesus do? And that sounds good, but the problem is they don't know what Jesus said. They don't know what Jesus would expect them to do. Secondly, I think that this tool will help raise the level of leadership in your groups. Because as you get more and more people sharing, more and more people using the Jesus Passages in small groups, they'll feel more comfortable and they'll expand and they'll grow as leaders. And you'll have a greater resource of both youth and adults who can lead. I think thirdly, it will help expand some of the spiritual conversations in your youth group. If they're all journaling the same passages that week, all of a sudden, they might be talking more about that passage than they are about sports or what is happening in current events. I think also you'll discover that there'll be greater ownership in the youth program because they don't see it as you imposing your program or plan on them. They come prepared to share their own message that God has taught them. And then I think also you are placing in their hands a book that they can use for the rest of their life, a set of skills that will prepare them as Christian young people to grow up and become adults. You know, just imagine your kids graduating from high school and going off to college or to university, and all of a sudden they start making some unwise decisions. And they look over on the shelf and they see the copy of the Jesus passages in their Bible that you gave to them. And maybe God in that moment will help them to open the Jesus passages, to read the life of Christ, and come back to the one who loved them. I will pray that those of you that are hearing and watching this video might take the Jesus passages, but more importantly, the very words of Christ, and release them in the life of your kids to His glory.